There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another lunchtime learning session here on the CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. And today, we're back with our good friends at BB Distribution as we go deeper diving into a couple of the particular lineup that they have over at Ground Zero Audio. So to do that, of course, I got to bring in my boy, Mr. JB, Justin Bott himself from BB Distribution. What's going on, Justin?
Hey, Ben. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I like this new setup, sir. Look at you looking all prime and crisp.
JB and HD.
JB and HD at BB, for sure. Very, very cool. Ground Zero. So we've taken the time, Justin, to go over the line. We've done the overview. Of course, we've had the specialist from Ground Zero, Mr. Jacob Brown, who will be joining us, of course, today. But before we get Jacob on, I wanted to kind of pick your brain as to how do you want to frame this particular episode? Because if you look at the description of the show, it looks like we're going to be diving in and taking a closer look at two specific, I guess, lineups within the category.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's be honest. Looking at the Ground Zero catalog can be slightly overwhelming, right? 400 plus SKUs, 9 different categories, 13 different product lines within there. So it can get kind of crazy. I can come in and we can talk about, $120 coax or $100 coax and $140 components all day long. I mean, that is, we could say that is the bread and butter of the audio industry right now and where it goes. And when Ground Zero plays in that market, they play extremely well. The thing with Ground Zero is that it kind of doesn't make sense for the dealer when you hear it, right? When you hear it, you're like, wait a minute, that's $120 pair of coax, or you know what I mean? It always kind of surpasses expectations, which is really nice. However, that being the bread and butter of the audio industry, that's not the passion portion of the audio industry. All right. No one says, man, all I want to do is build stereos with $100 speakers like all day long. That's like my favorite thing to do. Right. For me, especially being in, Alberta, stereo and music is the reason I got into this industry. For us, car starters is a huge market in winter, and that was kind of our pay to play, right? We would do our car starters to facilitate our stereos over here in Alberta, and bounce back and forth. But Ground Zero is a brand that is driven by passion and excitement, and that's the whole point of car audio, right? Is feeling and excitement. And when you sell speakers or you sell a stereo, you're providing a solution, but you're also selling an experience, right? You're selling that feeling. You've heard me say it a lot of times. It's that memory, or it takes you back to the first time you heard this song, or your first time you saw that band live. Hopefully concerts come back again, because I love listening to music, and live music's where it's at, and COVID's been brutal. But today's kind of focus is to focus a little bit on the hydrogen line, and then the uranium line, which is really the kind of first solid step into SQ on the uranium side. But the hydrogen line is slightly limited in comparison to the rest of the products, meaning that hydrogen, we're only kind of looking at amplifiers and subwoofers, right? Okay. And the reason we're talking a little bit about hydrogen today is because it's, for us in Canada, it's almost like this line that kind of gets missed a little bit, or doesn't get the credit that it deserves. And it's really, really an exciting, beautifully manufactured product line, which is really, really, really fun to talk about and fun to explain and to kind of show exactly where this kind of fits in the ground zero hierarchy. And then for dealers or consumers that are watching today, to show you kind of right where you want to be with hydrogen and the solution that hydrogen provides, and then moving on forward up to the next step in uranium.
Okay. So that's the outline of the agenda, rather, of what we're going to go through today. But I want to just touch on two things that I think are really important for those that are tuning in to understand. So first and foremost, Justin and I have had a lot of conversation about Ground Zero, and it's obvious to me that there's quite a bit of passion that you have behind this brand, behind this product, because of your personal experience. And we're going to get into that as we go into our dialogue with Jacob. The other thing I wanted to touch on is I wanted the customers to understand where this fits in the BB offering, because I want no mistake, this is a line that fits and fills a high-end amplifier and component portion
100%.
of your portfolio.
So this Ground Zero is the kind of pinnacle line when it comes to amplifiers for us. Being that we have so many brands and so many amazing partners with BB Distribution, we have Focal, we have Powerbase, and we have Ground Zero. It's really nice. But at the end of the day, I do have some territory agreements in certain places with certain brands. And, there are dealers, and there are always, up and coming dealers and new shops opening up and more life being, coming out in car audio. And it's nice to be able to offer a lineup like Ground Zero to dealers, right? So, I mean, even if I have dealers doing other brands that need the uber high-end SQ amps, they have Ground Zero available for that, right? Then if you have the dealer who says, you know what, I'm going feed first with Ground Zero, I just want to do Ground Zero, you have a lineup that we talked about like before, which is really cool because the lineup is so vast that it covers literally all aspects of car audio. There's almost not one thing that this company doesn't do, which means if you're, it's a pain in the ass to buy from a ton of different places and this and that, or, no one at the end of the day wants to say no to a customer. Sorry, sir, I can't do that. I can't take your money. I can't help you. I can't do that. No one wants to say that. That's not who we are in the industry. So Ground Zero is an already amazing solution. So if someone comes in looking for something completely outside of your wheelhouse. I've been building SQ cars for 15 years. We don't really do SPL, or all we do is SPL. We don't really do SQ. Depending whatever shop you're in, Ground Zero has you covered, and it all comes from the same brand with the same quality control, with the same ideology, the same engineering background, right? The same manufacturing style, and it just gives you that kind of confidence. So when I look at Ground Zero, originally with Ground Zero, we were looking at Ground Zero as a full, as an amplifier line replacement. That was, when we hit the, you get into the uranium series and the plutonium and the reference series, ultra high-end amplifiers, right? We're talking, $6,000-$7,000 retail amplifiers, at some points. That was my initial ping to Ground Zero. That's why I was like, hey guys, we need to look into this brand. But then as we started diving forward and looking into Ground Zero, we're like, hold on, let's slow our roll. Look at what these guys do. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool. And it's, for a brand that's relatively new in North America, that actually, started in the United States,
Exactly.
that kind of vanished for a while. It's enormous in the rest of the world. Enormous.
Yeah, check out the social media. Go to the catalog itself.
Yeah.
So many lineups. I think this is a great segue to bring on our special guest today. What do you say?
Yeah, totally. I miss him.
Let's welcome back Jacob Brown from Ground Zero, German Engineering. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Thanks for being patient and getting on with us today. As you can see, I think Justin kind of set the table, if you will. Ground Zero, a very vast lineup, and today we have the opportunity to really dive into two specific lines, that being the hydrogen and then looking at the uranium. So let's get right into it. You're here. We value your time, Jacob. So I'm going to let Justin start. Let's get into hydrogen, man.
All right. So yeah. So what I will do, I'll let kind of Jacob explain the success that they're having with hydrogen in the United States, where kind of hydrogen fits, and who the people hydrogen appease, right? Like I said, it's a really, really cool, a really super versatile line. And Jacob kind of explained it to me when we were going through the lines, is not so much as a tiered, lineup, but more of like a step, right? Where everything does everything really well, but things start to begin to specialize a little bit more as you move up the lineup, right? And they kind of close in their niche a little bit. So Jacob, if you kind of want to go on what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
make sense of that, brother. Make sense of that.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of one of the things that when we look at our product line, as Justin mentioned, 9 categories, 13 different individual, product subtitles or subheadings. It's vast, it's elaborate, it covers a lot of territory. And one of the things that I really like about the hydrogen line itself is, while yes, it's kind of one of the stair steps, it can go both ways, and it can go kind of across the board entirely. With what it can do, whether you're looking at the amplifiers that are, kind of more of a SQ-based Class D amplifier. So definitely, something that we're very proud of, but isn't going to break the bank. So it's not a, super expensive, highly, custom tailored Class D, but it does have that mentality and that feel to it. Mm-hmm. But it's also not overly expensive. So let's say you're building a step down line and you want something a little bit nice and compact, but still very good sounding. Cool. Hydrogen amplifiers. You need a 1,000-watt monoblock, but you don't necessarily want to jump over to our competition line necessarily. Boom, hydrogen line. This is one of our most, we do have a 5-channel in this line that is one of our probably favorite amps to play with. I mean, all of the US reps, the dealers, everybody's had really great success with that, because that amplifier will cover, you could step it up into uranium, you could step it down into radioactive, you could do an iridium build with it. So it's really kind of cool how it covers the gambit, but it fits right there, kind of in the midline of the product line. So it's not like we're saying, oh, go buy this, $2,000 or $3,000 amplifier and it'll cascade down. A lot of our middle product lines really kind of work in both directions on the scale. The subwoofer success that we've had with the hydrogen line is really just that it's probably one of the most versatile subs that we manufacture. So it's a phenomenal sounding woofer, handles gobs of power, has an incredible amount of movement. It'll move a ton of air, so you get output. A lot of them work in vented or sealed enclosures. We've seen them run in much smaller enclosures than they really want. We've seen them run in much larger enclosures, properly tuned and on the vented side. So it's really a cool subwoofer series to play with. And because of its musicality, it, like the hydrogen amplifiers, can go kind of across the spectrum. So being that the hydrogen line isn't complete, as Justin talked about, it really does get to pull from all of the other lines and say things like, oh, dude, you're doing a uranium build, but you want a little bit more output on the sub side, take a look at maybe a hydrogen 10 or a hydrogen 12, as opposed to maybe a uranium 10 or 12. And you're going to have some musicality. You sacrifice a little musicality for a little output, and you get to blend that in a little bit better for your customers. So that's really one of the reasons why I think the hydrogen line is so important, is because it is it's the condiments for the build, so to speak. I mean,
I can add to that because, with our CanadianMobileAudio.com website, we're always trying to feature the latest builds that we see from Canada, of course, and all over the world. And the vast majority, whenever a ground zero build comes along and we want to feature that, it's always those yellow. No, correct me if I'm wrong. Those are also available in green, because I've seen yellow and green variations of that sub. Right. So those are the subs that we see come up very, very often. And it's always going to be mixed with, like you said, a uranium or, another segment or another category or line within the line. But when it came to the subs in particular, we definitely see those a lot.
Yeah. I mean, everything about the hydrogen line kind of screams quality when you get into their hands. So the amps that I have in front of me right now, I have the 1000 RMS monoblock, and I have the 5-channel. About these two is when you get into this size, they're completely matching chassis, right? Which makes pairing it kind of really nice. But we've had a lot of success with this 5-channel because, it's a $1,000 retail amplifier, and it's like I said, the build doesn't match the dollars. When you look at these amplifiers and you look at all the amplifiers in the ground zero lineup, they lack the bells and whistles, I would say, aesthetically, that a lot of other amplifier brands have. There's not crazy fancy LEDs or multicolors, right? But everything built on the amplifier is built purpose. You know, Jacob and I talked about a little bit, you know, we were just shooting the shit and we talked about, you know, their reference series amplifiers. Now, these things are crazy. And they use rhodium plated RCA interconnects, all right? So rhodium is the most expensive metal available, period. Like it's an element, it's extremely expensive.
But it's the best conductivity.
Yeah, exactly. But the crazy thing is, you know, when I was talking to Jacob and I'm like, hey man, like why would they do this? Are they doing this just because this is an expensive amp and they can get away with it? And he said, because at that point, even if it's 3% more conductive than gold, it has to be done, right? Because it makes sense at that level, right? So when you look at something like this, or you look at something like this, and yeah, you see this solid black chunk of machined aluminum with the engraved Ground Zero logo, which I find extremely aesthetically pleasing. I'm the simple amp guys. You know, I go back to the old Orion amplifier days.
Oh, snap.
Beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see something like this and you realize like, man, this thing's got some massive weight to it. And then you take a look at the inside of this amplifier, all right? And you realize that even at this price point, you have these solid aluminum heat sinks that are built there for a purpose, to dissipate heat, to increase the reliability of the amplifier, right? This is not an overly high-powered amplifier. You know, this is 500 RMS on the rear channel at 1 ohm, but it's also a 5-channel output amplifier that will give you that 500 RMS on the rear channel, which is really awesome. And it will also give you 4x125 at 2 and 4x75. And the nice thing about this amp is it does have jam, but it also sounds phenomenal for being a Class D amp, right? It's going to give you all your high-level inputs with your soft delay turn on. You're going to get your adjustable frequency response, so high pass, low pass, band pass. You can run active. It's a fully equipped amplifier, and it's just inside a work of art. And so a little story about this is, before we signed on with Ground Zero, we got some samples. Jacob and Diago sent us some samples. And I said, okay, you know, I mean, this looks nice, but, you know, it's got some serious weight to it for an amplifier, right? But it's like, whatever, it's an amplifier. But we're lucky enough to have an in-house amp tech who's been repairing and building electronics, you know, forever, pretty much. Shout out to Richard. And I said, Richard, can you take a look at this amp for me? He said, okay, cool. I said, I want you to take it apart and just tell me what you think. And it's very rare that you get an amp that costs what this does when you have a certified amp tech or an electrical engineer take it apart and look at it and go, wow. Right? And I mean, that's more information probably that's gonna you know, appeal to a lot of consumers, but it just kind of adds to the brand confidence and the kind of dollar for value, you know, value for dollar that you get with Ground Zero when you're purchasing a product like this. It's unbelievable. It may be in that, you know, fairly basic looking chassis, but like this thing is a sleeper underneath with true power rated in a true way, where kind of no corners are cut and no numbers are pumped and inflated, right? It's there to give you exactly what you need. And honestly, from the first time that you pick up these amplifiers and you get a chance to hold them, you're like, that's a pretty badass amplifier. Like, I think I'm very intrigued, right? And then that carries on through the whole Hydrogen series, right? When we get to these woofers and we're talking about jam, you know, this little 8 is like a cylinder, right? So, you know, this thing has a 2.5-inch copper voice coil, you know, 45 mils of X max. It's 750 RMS, 1500 watts peak. It's a monster, a high roll surround. It's literally a cylinder. The magnet and chassis is the same width from top to bottom, right? But the thing that sets us about, even with the paper cone and the high roll surround, is it's still extremely musical. So like Jacob said, you can get that bang with these woofers, but you're not sacrificing your SQ. You're going to give up something. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just how it works. But overall, when you look at these woofers, you know, you get that like holy shit appeal, solid aluminum chassis. Like these things are no joke, man.
Jacob, I'd love to hear you add to this, because you gave us your insight on the amplifiers, but I mean, obviously Justin's very excited about holding and touching that, because it looks like an absolute freak of nature, like it's as high as it is wide. But tell us about the feedback that you've had from, you know, you're on the American side with your customers that have, you know, plugged these in, installed them, and played them.
You know, it's one of those weird things that, of course, you know, everybody looks at it. If you go strictly based on looks, it's an SPL driver. You know, exactly as Justin said. From the 6.5 to the 15, you pick it up. It's heavy. It's got mass. You look at it. You know it's got throw because of the surround and the spider configurations. You know it's going to move air. And what we've seen is the guys who adapted over into like a vented enclosure, for example, you know, there's two different kind of rules of thumb there. There's the European kind of slightly higher tuning frequency. You know, you get that smack in the back of the head. You get that super kind of upper bass, you know, the stuff that subwoofers don't normally play, or you hear them and you're kind of like, I'm not a huge fan. These do very, very, very well. But because of the way the driver's built, you tune it a little bit lower. It digs super deep. You maintain that musicality through the low range, and now you've got a driver that will, you know, move the air around you. It's not necessarily the go-to hair trick woofer, because it's not, but it brings that fun back that you would expect from a high throw sub. So now you're mixing, you know, both of those worlds, and dealers have embraced it. You know, this is finally, you know, to me in the US, this is the sub that a lot of dealers have wanted. But they've really only previously been kind of either presented the opportunity in one or the other, or at an extremely high price point. So, you know, I'm not saying that this driver is a unicorn by any means, but I think, as Justin, you know, continuously talks about, this is the driver that you go, for this price, it's going to be okay. You put it in, you throw the right power on it, you get it tuned appropriately, and all of a sudden you're going, that's the same sub. You know, one, where's the second one? Because there's no way it's only one. Two, I thought you sold me a hydrogen, and this sounds like an SQ woofer. So it's a lot of the feedback has been that, you know, you're playing tricks on dealers or consumers. You know, there's no way this sub is that good. And truthfully, it is.
And that's the one thing I wish the show could offer, is that feeling of the bass moving. You know, like we could talk about it, we could show the features, you can describe it. I wish there was like a soundometer or some type of feature where like a press a button, oh, that's what it sounds and feels like. We can't. So the best we can do is describe it, and you did that, you know, brilliantly. Thank you, Jacob. Please continue, Justin. Yeah.
So I mean, I actually had a dealer that did 4 of the Hydrogen 12s. In a blow-through in a truck with a Sound Digital 5,000 watt Evo X. And he calls me and he said, listen, Justin, I've been doing car audio for 30 years. And I said, okay, here we go. Right, here we go. He's either going to rip me apart or whatever. And he said, there is no way that these 4 woofers should sound like this. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, I've been in vehicles with 810s, and 1012s and 1212s and 615s. I've never heard anything like this. And this is just, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a blow through in a truck, right? But he just said, I used hand for hand, I used the box dimensions that were provided to me from Ground Zero, which is also really cool. When you look at their instruction manuals and the user manuals for all their woofers, they give you exactly what you want. If it's bandpass, if it's sealed, if it's a vented enclosure, they're going to let you know the ideal parameters for everything, which is really useful for a lot of the guys that don't have Term Lab or a Box Builder Pro kind of software. So this will help you with a little bit of math get kind of right where you need to be. And yeah, he was just ecstatic. And that's the stuff about Ground Zero. That's the thing, is it just delivers so well all the time. Not to mention, like Jacob said, 6.5 inch, 8 inch, 10 inch, 12 inch. And then all of them are available also pretty much in a dual 1 ohm or a dual 2 ohm coil configuration, right? So when you look at their hydrogen amps that are 1 ohm stable, and you look at their woofers that are dual 2 or dual 1, they really have given the dealer and the user unlimited options to make everything work together perfect, right? There's a lot of forethought. You know what I mean? There's a lot of money that goes into manufacturing 2 of the same woofers and stocking 2 of the same woofers with different coil configurations, right? But, you know, that's the difference between 2, 4, 5, 7, whatever. And when it gets to this kind of level and dealers are reaching out to me saying, you know what, I want to put 4 of those Hydrogen H under my truck bench, I say, perfect, awesome, I can help you with that. You know, and it's fun and it's exciting for me as a company on the BB distribution side to be excited to help excited dealers kind of get through that and, hey, check this out. Yeah, for sure. And then to have them say, holy shit, that's amazing. It sounds so good. I love this brand.
I don't know how I'm supposed to continue this show. I've already got Justin at a level 10 excitement, and now we're going to talk about, you know, the next line, which I know he's even more excited about. So I'm not sure what's going on. Where are we segueing to? We promised the viewers 2 lines. So we talked about the Hydrogen series, where it sits in the lineup, what it's designed for, what its attributes are. We talked about their amps, and we talked about the subs. And that's it. It's just amps and subs when it comes to hydrogen. Okay. But now we're getting into something that offers the whole gambit.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump up into probably my favorite line in the entire lineup is the Uranium line. Mind you, I've never got to hear or play with a reference series amp. Wah wah. But
wah, wah, wah. So sad.
Listen, I mean, I don't want to sound like a pile here, but I've built a lot of stereos in my life. I've been doing this, I mean, not as long as a lot of people. I've been in the industry for about 11 and a half years now. I've done a lot of stereos. I've had the privilege of working with really great brands. We built a stereo using a set of the plutonium components and the uranium amplifiers in this. It was the first time in my life that without tuning or touching a single thing, I had a stereo sound that good. And I called Jacob and I said, listen, man, I don't know if it's the speakers. I don't know if it's the amplifier. I don't know if it's both, but this is unbelievable. You know, we RTA'd it. It's almost perfectly flat. It was crazy. It just, the way that it worked and the combination was really exciting. You know, and for an installer, when I get that smile when I first listen to a stereo that I haven't put a ton of work into, that's a good thing, right? That's what we chase. The sales guys chase. That's what the installers chase. That's what car audio chases, is the moment that customer gets in their car and you say, yeah, Mr. Customer, listen to this. And you play that song and you get that ear-to-ear grin like, holy, this is what I've been missing, right? So I don't get that experience a ton anymore, especially not after the first, like right out of the gate. I get it after we've done the tuning and it's the setup and yada, yada, yada. But like right out of the gate, I don't get that. Like, I feel like a little kid again. Holy shit, this is the first time I've heard music kind of thing. So the Uranium line just kind of keeps getting better and better. When we first brought it on and I listened to their wood pulp cones on the Uranium speakers, I was floored. I was like, man, this sounds really cool. The cone looks good. It makes sense. It's extremely well damped. It's a very strong cone. You know what I mean? It's quick. And then they stepped the game up again with kind of what Jacob described as their like first ground up, custom tooled, 100% speaker. I'll let Jacob talk a little bit about
I'll tell you what.
I got the 6.5 and I got the 3-inch with me today. The tweeter's just little. And
Justin, what do you say we kind of tease everybody with what that's all about in a video?
Yeah,
we'll get right into it. How's that?
Play the video.
Here we go. So I know there's one of our audience members that might be a little bit biased, thinking that whip looks sick. I think his name is Tommy. He's in the comments right now. But before I let you guys go on this, because I know you're going to talk about this deep and rightfully so. My 2 cents before we even talk about what all the features are. those are my top 3 prettiest amplifiers right now in the market. That's my 2 cents. Beautiful, just old school, simple, high end, clean. Never mind what it sounds like or how it's, but it just looks awesome. So that's my 2 cents. Go.
Yeah.
That was what I had to say. Go ahead, Jacob.
I mean, long gone are the days of an amplifier heatsink that you could sharpen and legit cut paper, and then here we are with that amplifier. So the thing that I am really excited about with the uranium line is it's the true shift across the entire board of a product lineup to what people would talk about as SQ, what people would talk about as the transition to high end. And one of the things, and again, we're reharping on stuff that Justin's talked about. When you've got equipment, in our opinion, that's as good as the uranium, at the price point that you're paying for it, it takes out that unobtainable feel. But you're getting stuff that other manufacturers strive for, or the transition where other manufacturers leave off. So yeah, this set of speakers across the board is our first ground up custom tooled, everything is new set of speakers. So we did a motor that's slightly different than anything else we've ever done before. The new 80 millimeter mid range is incredible for what it is. The new custom tuned 28 millimeter coated silk dome tweeter that we have in this lineup is really unlike anything I've had a ton of experience with in the past. So we really stepped up the game. This is another line we're working on another full range that, I don't know how much I can talk about, but that's going to be super exciting and weird. So this line is really that enthusiast line without, again, breaking the bank. So this is the line you get into a car, and as Justin talked about, you get that grin on your face, that giggle back in your body that just kind of, this is what I'm in this industry for. And to me, the uranium line has always been that, but now it's really that. So yeah, this speaker lineup, stepping up voice coil size on the 6.5-inch mid bass driver to take a little bit more power, to give it a little bit more control down low. The motor design that we used is as an underhung, just to be able to get traction and maintain clarity and detail with less distortion down low. Rubberized dust cap to help function as a shock absorber for the cone to absorb some resonances and some issues in cone design, which is just inherent. I mean, this whole set of speakers is a result of this, which is caused by XYZ. So we're correcting that in inherent nature of driver design. And for us, it's really cool. It's fun to be able to do that. It's fun to be able to be part of it and see an engineering team and work with an engineering team that goes, oh yeah, we ran into this problem, so this is how we fixed it. And I haven't really seen that before on something else. So yeah, this set of drivers is really my transition, at least in our product lineup, into that unobtainium element that a lot of people run into in their lifetime, but we've done it in a way that they can get it.
So Justin's probably one of the dudes I know that knows the most about speakers. So Justin, I want you to hold those in your hand and talk to us a little bit about what your observations are.
So, I mean, when you look at the speaker, the nice thing about it is, first off, you're going to obviously notice the rose gold color, which has kind of been the signature of the uranium line. Everything down from the amplifier with the slight tint of rose gold up to the speakers. Now, one thing that's really cool that I didn't actually know, believe it or not, until Jacob and I had a conversation, is that, we're talking and he's like, yeah, you hear it all the time. Well, these speakers use neodymium. They're expensive because they use neodymium. Neodymium is a more expensive magnet. Neodymium this, neodymium that. It's stronger, rare earth, etc. What I didn't know is that there's different grades of neodymium magnet. To be honest, I thought like neodymium was like neodymium. That's when you buy neodymium, you're buying this. But I was educated by Jacob and the guys at Ground Zero to learn that there are significantly different grades of neodymium. And that's one thing that they focus. When it comes down to the speaker, it's really pretty when you look at the design of it, when you look at the venting on the speaker, the color, the mounting points, and the shallow depth of it with the Neo motor. They use the highest grade everything. So when Jacob talks about what you're getting again at this price point, it's not something that you would expect when you're spending these kind of dollars, on the speakers, on the set of components or three-ways, and then you look at them and you get the completely redesigned boxes, black matte finish, or matte black finish, sorry. Once again, copper color. They do that so that the whole experience from start to finish with the speakers, everything from the first day that you get your box to the last day that you listen to them in your car, has been this wild ride provided to you by Ground Zero and the dealer of your choice, to just awesomeness. So it's really fun to get excited about products like this again when you see them and you hear them and you just get to say, like, shit, that's dope.
What about the subwoofers? I mean, there's subwoofers in this lineup as well, right?
Yeah, so we got a 10, a 12, and an 8 in this.
So 8, 10, and 12.
Yeah.
So no 15s though in the uranium, only in the hydrogen.
No. And like Jacob said, we've have them on our larger display board. I don't have one here to show you today because they're on my display board. But these are going to give you that tight hit that you want, but they still have a ton of get up and go. Like, in no means am I saying this subwoofer is not noticeable. It's there just to put the bass in your face and let you roll off. I mean, if you change your settings or you change your EQ and you set it the way you want, you're going to know those woofers are there 100%. The Uranium series is just, as a full line, that transition into SQ, it still doesn't fall short of anything, but it delivers on all aspects of what you're getting for when you jump into that SQ line. And the amplifiers are my favorite thing in the entire lineup.
Okay, hold on. Before you get too excited about the amplifiers, I have a comment to make about the speakers and subs. So I feel like there's two schools. I am of the school where when I want to build a system, if there's an opportunity to go tonally uniform, what I mean by that is going with the same line that's meant to work together from the highs to the sub bass frequencies and the amplifier to work. I will. Like I'm kind of nitpicky like that. So with uranium, that satisfies my OCD.
Purist. Yeah.
My OCD purist side, right? Because I could do my 3 ways up front, get rear fill, do 2 12s, right? Do the amplification, and it's literally all uranium.
Yeah.
Right. So that fills my cake. But just on the other side, there are those that they want that maybe fidelity sound up front, but don't mind a little dirty junk in the back by maybe going with the hydrogen, and that's okay too. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just pointing out that there are 2 types of customers out there and 2 types of builders out there, and you're presenting opportunities to fulfill both those scenarios.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. That's what.
Are you a mix and match guy, Jacob?
Yeah. I mean, I always have been. I've always been one of those guys that has been lucky enough to, in the retail shops that I've worked with, worked for or owned, been able to kind of mix and match what I wanted. I've had cars with, a complete theoretical top end SQ front build and 215s mounted on a trunk baffle, giving me on 1800 watts of power. One of the cars that I've got parked over that way, regretfully doesn't run, but yeah, it was a legit attempt at a fun SQ car. So 3-way active in the front, completely processed, as high resolution as you could get with being, an iPhone user, and through the DSP, everything time aligned to the 9s, 3,000 watt amplifier on 215s. Where into it? And it's not just that SQ mindset of, dynamic headroom and 15s are effortless low frequency. No, I would crack the windows and, shoot between states in this car and still have fun doing it.
Because it was fun.
So every car that I've built is what I want. And I think, this transition to Ground Zero and the rebirth of this brand and the lines that we're working with are one of the few times when I'm looking at a product line going, I personally can do a full build under one subheading of a brand. So whether it be a full build in radioactive, a full build in uranium, a full build in plutonium, I now have that ability to say, I'm comfortable doing this. And I love the ability to do this. As Justin had mentioned, he was really interested in the amps, and look at what's happened. They're embracing this full line for exactly what it's worth and exactly.
I think there's room on his left arm for a tattoo. That's all I'm saying.
We might even pay for it if he wants to.
Oh,
there we go.
Diego, pick up the bill.
Sponsor.
Diego, pick up the bill. Okay, let's talk about what you've been waiting to talk about. I'm not going to hold you back anymore, Justin. Why don't you please proceed us in telling us all about these uranium amplifiers?
All right. These pieces of art, they're heavy, they hurt. So what I have with me right here is the Ground Zero uranium 4-channel. So this is our 4-channel SQ amplifier. This is a start of the kind of purebred SQ amplifiers by Ground Zero. And the first thing that, like Jacob said, here come the sharp corners, paper cutting, enormous style heatsink, but all-purpose built. This amp needs this heatsink, and I'll tell you why. It's got a couple unique features about it. I mean, first off, it's going to give you the same kind of standards you're going to expect from most amplifiers. This is a 4x110 at 4 or a 4x190, so almost 200 RMS a channel at 2 ohms, and then bridged is almost 2x500, 2x460 or something like that. But what makes this amplifier extremely unique, again, is the build. Once again, the build. So, like I said, like Ben, like you said, it's a very pretty, simple amplifier. The engraved Ground Zero logo, all block terminals with hex head fasteners. But once again, it comes down to the inside of this machine.
I'll be honest, Justin, I don't even know which side I like looking at more. If I had two, I might have to do one forward and one backward just to show.
Yeah, I'd honestly mount these upside down with an acrylic top.
Yeah,
but I'd have to float them a little bit because the entire chassis is a heatsink.
I can see from here already, why this is what it is.
Yeah. So throughout the lineups, when you get into these higher end lineups with Ground Zero, they start getting really nitpicky if they weren't already with the components. For example, so this is using the Texas Instrument Bird Round amplifier chips in this thing, but they're also using WEMA electronics or WEMA capacitors. Now, the cool thing about the capacitors used with this is that the capacitors manufactured for this amplifier, for the electrical tolerances, are manufactured for this amplifier. They're not a manufactured part by WEMA that they say they test. So yeah, this is good, let's put it in there. The cool thing about this amplifier, and it goes up from here when you hit into the plutonium series, when you get into the reference series, it gets just more and more, is that these parts are purposely built for these amplifiers, right? So when you look at this amplifier and you look at the work of art that is inside, and you realize, holy crap, this is an enormous heatsink, it all speaks to the type of amplifier that this is. Now, the other really exciting thing about this amplifier, so these series amplifiers come in a 2-channel, a 4-channel, and a 6-channel, is they have a channel paired adjustable bias. Jacob, you want to kind of elaborate on that, and just in case dealers don't really understand why we'd want that?
So one of the things about this amplifier and moving up is this is, as Justin said, this is the first of the SQ super oriented style of amplifier. So this adjustable bias allows the installer, the tuner, however the car is being built, to really change the amplifier's behavior. So when you adjust to more of the Class A bias, it's not that it drops power, it's not that anything happens, but like when you're running a tweeter and you've got the gain super low and you want that warmth and that sound signature typically associated with a Class A amplifier, we now kind of give you that ability to say, okay, you know what, I'm running a tweeter and a mid-range on this amplifier, I can adjust to more of a Class A behavior and gain that warmth that we all kind of expect, where now you turn around and you another amplifier you're running to mid basses, you want it to kick over, you want the more power, a little bit more instantaneous, so you can leave it biased towards the traditional Class A B switch. So it's really kind of cool that just from the amplifier alone, you can change the sound signature and or the behavior of what it is that you're tuning and what it is that you're building. So that's one of the neat features that we really bring to the table with these series of SQ amps is really the fine tuning and the adjustability straight from the amp, not counting what you can do, with the DSP and everything else along those lines.
And I can see that satisfying some of the old school cats out there, because there's a group out there that are kind of anti-DSP as well. I know that's hard to believe, but I've read the forums. Some people like the old school, no filtering, no time delay adjustment, none of that.
Yeah. There's always going to be purists, and there's people hungry for Class A amplifiers, and let's be honest, they draw a ton of power, they produce a ton of heat, and they don't give you a ton of output. You know what I mean? But the warmth and the kind of richness that you get out of a Class A amplifier, it's like having Macintosh Class A home amplifiers, right? They're there for a reason. They have that sound and that sound signature. So to bring that back into a car level, especially when you're at the price point of these amplifiers, and you get to hear it and you get to use it. I think this amplifier retail, this 4-channel, is in that 1800 to 2K. And it's when you hear it and when you hear it against anything else in that range, you're going to be blown away. It's fantastic. And it's like I said, I can't say it enough. When you get to see these, you get to hold these, you get to hear these, you're just taken back to old school car audio. Like, this is badass. Like, this is car audio. This is why. This is that moment I sat in that car and I heard that song, and it was like the first time I heard Cowboys from Hell, So it was like, this is that reason. So it's exciting. It's exciting. And, like I said, it comes in the configurations. The 2-channel has a ton of power. The 6-channel is my favorite just because I'm a huge fan of multi-channel amplifiers. I think our industry is a huge fan of multi-channel amplifiers now. And yeah, the adjustable bias, being able to run an active 3-way off that 1 amp, you slam those tweeters full all the way to Class A. You bring your, for us, we set the 3-inch just probably 75% towards Class A, and we had the drivers almost fully Class AB. And you can notice the difference. You can sit there and turn that dial and go, holy shit, this sounds crazy.
Just manual real time, just like that.
Yeah, they're all in the back.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, they're linked kind of two channels. Right?
I can tell just by the way you're holding that and manipulating that there is some weight behind that.
Yeah, it's not a little amp. It's not light. It's
hey man, I've always said, wow, this must be worth a lot. It weighs a lot. There's something to be said, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not just lead bricks.
True, but right, exactly. Guys, listen, we're out of time, but I wanted to do a recap of everything we learned in this session. So we talked about the Hydrogen series is kind of like the go-to. Take a look at that. Amplifiers and subs only, different voice coil configurations. Like Jacob had mentioned, it's kind of like SQ meets SPL, a little bit of everything, but definitely put a smile on your face. Yep. I think that's where it is, and there's great value in that lineup. Very popular, go-to in the US. Great feedback from customers so far on that. So Canadian customers, that might be a good starting place to discover ground zero sound and quality. And then we moved on to the Uranium series, and we talked about the speakers, and we talked about their build, and we talked about the neodymium magnets. And of course, we talked about the fact they have subs, yes, but of course, those lovely amplifiers. Can you show us that one more time, Justin? I just want to see you flex. We'll see how heavy it is. Put it in, yeah, it's just gorgeous.
That's why you brought the 4-channel instead of the 6.
Is that the
Correct.
4? That's the 4, right?
This is the 4. The 6 channel's too heavy for me. I don't like it.
Man, the 6 must be just an absolute.
Yeah,
beast.
it's over here.
That's crazy. I love it. I know it's all about downsizing.
Nice together.
I know it's all about downsizing. You look at like Sound Digital. You mentioned Sound Digital. They're all about the compact size. Man, if you had the space, why wouldn't you?
Totally.
He'd sing for days. That's what I say. Sing for days. All right, guys. Any last message that Jacob that you have for our Canadian dealers tuning in?
I think I'd just like to kind of reiterate your point of what you just said a few seconds ago. If you haven't experienced ground zero, take a stab with the hydrogen. You know, if you're going to jump in and you're going to say, I want to try something that's fun, the hydrogen subs. I mean, grab a 10, grab a 12, grab a pair of them, give it the right amount of power, build the right box, and now you're going to understand. If you're an amp guy and what you're looking for is, you know, exactly as Justin had mentioned, you know, we're looking for amps. The Ground Zero stuff is definitely an easy transition into our brand. You know, you get what you pay for, you get far more than what you pay for, but you get exactly what you are hoping for in that. So really, you know, the amplifiers, whether it's hydrogen, you know, going down, going up, depending on what your market is, the amplifiers I think could be a great transition piece for dealers as well. But the biggest thing is, if you're new, if you're looking to revamp, if you're looking to be that guy that, you know, hey, we like to do weird things, or we like to work with, you know, whole house brands, we're definitely that as well. So now you're building your new shop, or you're, you know, rethinking a product line, and you're going, you know, what can I get? What's cool? What can I do everything with that I don't have to turn away a customer or anything like that? We're your company.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your wisdom and taking the time.
No problem. Y'all have a good one.
And call Justin. Take care, Jacob.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, there you have it. So I think it's obvious you're pretty passionate about the line, like I said in the beginning, and you know, through your presentation here, I can totally understand why. You know, when we take a step back and you look at all the different variety offering brands that BB has, right? You've got some top-notch brands. There's no doubt about it. Understand now where this fits, right? You want to, and let's be, you know, Jacob's not here, so I'm going to say this now. If you're a full cal, you know, you love selling full cals, because let's be honest, there's a lot of full cal fans in Canada because you guys, but you want some power, right? Maybe you want to look at that uranium amplifier, right? That's one option.
I believe the lines complement each other quite a bit.
Sure. So. I'll let you say that. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say, you know, you want some high-end power, that could be a good option. Or you want to be OCD like me and you want to build up full brand, full line, because I believe in being tonally matched. That's just me. You could do that as well. Or if you just want to have some fun, check out that hydrogen line, because that looks like a ton of fun too.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Ground Zero paired with the other brands that I have kind of leaves no open holes, right? And I mean, the worst thing that happens in this industry is, I call it the cold fries. It's like when you go to McDonald's and you get cold fries, right? That disappointment. When you're expecting good McDonald's fries and you get cold fries, it's brutal, right? And I think that happens too much in the industry, and it hurts our industry. You know, when we do collision avoidance, and if it doesn't perform like OEM or meet the customer's expectation, that's a hit on us. That's a hit on the installer. That's a hit on the product, the shop. You don't get that with the brands that I sell. You don't get that with Ground Zero. You know, your fries are always hot with with Ground Zero.
Hot and crispy, steamy.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Justin, for bringing a little bit more clarity to the Ground Zero line. Certainly some exciting stuff. You saw the digits, get a hold of BB Distribution in Canada, as they are the exclusive Canadian distributor for Ground Zero. And I understand from our last session that there are some great opportunities for some in-store displays and whatnot. I'll let you guys contact BB and find that out, but I know that they have a great display program going on as well. Call him. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care. There you have it, guys. Another awesome lunchtime learning session here with Ground Zero and Justin Bond. Actually, let's mention Jacob Brown. Thank you for being on. And, of course, Justin Bond from BB Distribution. I want to say thanks to everybody who tuned in today. I saw the entire HKI crew was on there. So what's up, guys? Thanks for supporting. And, of course, Ricardo from Sirius XM. Hey, good to see you again, Mo. One more. We got another Connected come to you only in 2 days on Friday. So make sure you tune in at noon for another lunchtime learning session. I'm your host, Ben Wu. This is CMA Connected, presented by Sirius XM. Until next time, we connect.